Here with Lori Rosene-Gambino, writer of Anniversary. I guess we'll just start with that because this is quite the horror movie. There's not an excessive amount of gore. There's no monsters. There's no supernatural, no Freddy Krueger. But this is an absolute horror movie, and I think some people might take that as like, oh, it's not a horror movie. This is elevated, blah blah blah. But I mean, the situation that develops and escalates quite quickly in this is very plausible and very scary. So
Yes.
what's your take on all that?
No, absolutely. That was the intention. It's obviously become more scarier because it's more topical than 5 years ago when I wrote it. I actually wrote it during lockdown. You can see a lot of influence, I think, with that through the virus living in bubbles, moving pockets of populism and, ideologies across the globe, everything we were following at the time. But yes, it's actually, you can call it a political horror film or a social horror film. And, we were very aware of that. I talked to Jan about writing it so that it would feel more claustrophobic by the end and people who feel like they were being surveilled. And he talked at one point about sort of shooting it that way, like a horror film towards the end, and even like maybe painting the walls a little darker, but to give that feeling of being boxed in. And and by the way, the Magritte painting behind you, the lovers, was my inspiration for that because it is about the intimacy of two people who are obviously in love by their body language, but you're not really seeing the outside forces pressing down on them. So that was my sort of inspiration for the whole thing.
Yeah. And what was, because I can't imagine this came fully formed because there's so many ideas. A lot of movies like this are ambiguous, like, oh, here's the questions, but we don't really have a point of view. What's your idea? Like this is really pointed in that these are the dangers. This is what's going to happen if these things go unchecked. What was the goal in writing this from the beginning?
Jan had this idea that he came to me. I think being Polish and his democracy being newer than the American democracy, I think maybe people in Europe were seeing a lot of changes that were happening in America. And I think he wanted to comment on that, but in a worst case scenario, sort of cautionary kind of tale, which is actually, I think it's very meaningful now and a bit more prescient than it was. But the idea wasn't, it was more about the ideology that separates a family that comes to sit at the table and will divide you, and not about partisan politics. That was the whole point. But of course, the difficulty in that is that you have to write something that is given without giving the tenets of what maybe the change book was. You have to explain sort of what's happened and how we've got here. So the film isn't trying to be coded in any way, and I hope everybody sees themselves somehow in it, no matter where, what your politics are, or religion, or any movement you might belong to. But the whole point of it is that, the family divided is the horror of the piece. And how that gets bastardized by maybe large corporate interests or a think tank or those kinds of things. So this is pre like things like Project 2025 or like Le Pen in France and, any kind of the EU with Brexit and things like that. So this was just starting to come into the zeitgeist when I was writing it. So
Yeah, I think this one of the great decisions in this was to kind of scale it down because you talk about seeing yourself in this. We're following this family. This is where the thing kind of burrs, and then as it develops, that family that we're following is immediately affected by it.
yeah,
Whereas like something like Civil War, for example, love Civil War, but that's more on a macro scale, so it's easy to look at it from the outside in. With the family that you're following through the whole thing, you're going through it with them, and then also knowing that they're kind of the seed of that, so
that's
to speak.
right. And we wanted to do sort of like an intimate civil war. How do you see it with inside a family? How do you not tell all the exterior stuff? And that was motivated by the kind of story that Jan wanted to tell, and also just really a very modest budget of a one location film. I broke it out a little bit more in Washington D.C. with Georgetown and the idea of Paul's restaurant, and I put it on the Potomac for very specific historical reasons, but also for the use of the woodlands and the Potomac and to get some, the neighborhood, that kind of thing. But yes, it was definitely the idea of this contained story that we were trying to make suspenseful, but and slowly horrifying, and just seeing how after so many years between the 25th and the 30th anniversary, it causes so many changes within the family.
Yeah,
So
One of my favorite lines in this is "Rage fuels the writing." Is that like an undercover writer's tip to other screenwriters out there?
It's certainly mine. For this film, by the way. Only because it was a lot to take in and a lot to digest and a lot to keep these things go. I'll give you an example. So the enumerator scene, which you'll see kind of coming up, is something that came off of I can't write another family at a table like, these people would never see each other. So anyway, so it was like very impassioned about how we move this along. And I went off and wrote that whole sequence and didn't tell anybody, producers or yawned. I just really wanted them to feel it on the page. And that's sometimes a little writer's trick, right? Is that you don't give away everything in development and you want them to like go, oh, and then suddenly we're definitely keeping that. So yeah, but it definitely, obviously, I think everyone's very enraged right now, one way or the other. So I think that people will feel that. Yeah, absolutely. So, but certainly, yes, I think it's nerve-wracking to complete something and to have deadlines, to have a lot of ideas, from producers. It's always the process, right? So yeah, you want to do a really good job and be conscientious, but you also want to serve yourself as a writer and write something that you're passionate about and that your heart and soul is in. But yes, absolutely. Rage fuels the writing.
Yeah.
I got mine too.
Did you just plan on doing like a light rom-com after this? After doing something heavy, it's like,
Oh God, yes. No, well, I will
Yes.
tell you that my husband and I set up our first project together. It is a dark comedy. I actually write comedy really well. It's a character study as well, but yes, it's absolutely a completely different tone.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well, Anniversary comes out in theaters nationwide October 29th. I
right.
implore anyone to watch it. And like I said, it's definitely like political, but not so much partisan. It's like kind of like Orwell's 1984. You don't need to be a specific
Yes.
party to know that this thing is bad. Let's not do this thing.
Yeah.
But I want to get a movie recommendation from you, just a movie that's either personal to you or something that's like this movie's real good and no one talks about it.
Oh, that no one talks about. I'm sure everyone talks about Ice Storm. That's very impactful on me, the family dynamic in that film. Let's see what else. I'm going to mention can I mention a few more that
Go
just were
for it.
impactful? One's The
You wrote a
Leopard.
brilliant screenplay.
Uh,
You're entitled. Go for it.
a couple of films that influenced me for this particular for anniversary is Ice Storm, The Leopard. Do you know that one with Burt Lancaster? Brilliant film.
No, no, I don't.
Brilliant film. Fanny and Alexander, very contained movie about a family that's, kind of coming apart a little bit. There's a great film that won the Academy Award card, which no one knows this, called Burnt by the Sun. That's a really good film. And the other one is The Garden. I always mispronounce this. Maybe you can help me here. The Garden of Finzi Continis, which is also about, so these are all films that have a relation to a little bit to anniversary. Very different because they're about incidents that have already happened historically, unlike ours. But those in particular were very influential to and helpful to me.
Well, excellent. You went way out of my field of view, so I'll be checking all those. Those are great picks.
Yeah,
But
you're gonna love them. Go see them. They're really good.
yeah. Well, Lori, thanks for joining me and congratulations on the movie. And I can't wait to see what else you got left. A huge fan of yours immediately. This movie was fantastic. And yeah, congratulations.
Eric, thank you so much, and I love your background. That's awesome. I should have had that one.
I,
I'm not that smart. That's
I,
great.
I painted it myself.
Love it.